It seems like every day there's a new cybersecurity threat, like the kind that makes you want to ditch your devices and, disappear off the grid.
Yeah.
But we're not quite ready to go full Luddite just yet. So instead, we've got a stack of recent articles here.
Yeah.
Everything from tech news to software updates, and we're going to break down the most important stuff, Think of it as your cybersecurity cheat sheet.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot to keep up with. These things are constantly evolving. But I think what's really striking about these articles is that they highlight the real-world impact of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Not just on big corporations, but, on everyday people.
Right.
Like you and me.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Yeah.
One of the scariest things we keep hearing about is ransomware.
Uh-huh.
What is that, and why should we be worried about it?
Ransomware is basically the digital equivalent of a hostage situation.
Oh.
It's malicious software that infiltrates your computer or your network, encrypts all your data, and basically holds it hostage until you pay a ransom to the attackers.
So it's like all your files are locked in a vault?
Yeah.
And the only way to get the key is to pay up.
Exactly.
And we're seeing this huge surge in this one particularly nasty type called Medusa, right?
Right.
I mean, the FBI and CISA even issued a warning about it.
Yeah, Medusa is really alarming because it's being offered as ransomware as a service.
Oh, wow.
So essentially what that means is that even low-level criminals with limited technical skills can just buy and deploy this ransomware.
Oh, so they don't even have to be like a super hacker or anything.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's like a disturbingly convenient toolkit for cyber extortion.
Yikes. So this isn't just hypothetical, right? This stuff has real-world consequences.
Uh-huh.
One of the articles talks about how the Micronesian state of Yap got hit with a ransomware attack
Right.
that basically shut down their entire health system network.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that? No access to medical records, no communication between doctors and nurses? It's terrifying.
It's unsettling because it really underscores how vulnerable even essential services are to these attacks. It's a stark reminder that behind these digital threats, there are real people who can be severely impacted.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Your bank, your local hospital, even the systems that control our power grids.
Yeah.
They all rely on networks that, if compromised,
Yeah.
could have devastating consequences.
It's kind of like realizing that the whole world is built on like digital Jenga blocks and someone keeps pulling out crucial pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from, becoming a victim of one of these attacks?
Well, that's where the second major theme in these articles comes in,
Okay.
which is exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities. Those pesky software updates we all tend to ignore.
Oh, yeah.
They often contain critical security patches that fix weaknesses in the system.
Yeah.
But if those weaknesses aren't patched, it's like leaving your front door wide open with a big neon sign that says valuables inside.
Yeah, speaking of open doors, one of the reports we have here from Forescout dives into how a ransomware gang called Mora001 was able to exploit vulnerabilities in Fortinet firewalls.
Right.
Those things that are supposed to be the guardians of our networks?
Yeah, it's interesting about this case. The attackers weren't using like some incredibly sophisticated zero-day exploit.
No.
They were taking advantage of known vulnerabilities that hadn't been patched.
Oh, wow.
And get this, they created admin accounts with names like FortiCloud Tech.
Oh, really?
And even misspelled administrator like ADNIMISTRATOR.
Wow.
So it's almost comical how obvious they were being.
But not so comical, I guess, is that they were also able to download the firewall configuration file.
Right.
Which basically gave them a blueprint of the entire network.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not so funny anymore. But this case really highlights the importance of defense in depth.
Okay.
So even if attackers get past one layer of security, having multiple layers like strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and regularly updated software can make all the difference.
Right.
Think of it like a medieval castle with layers of walls and moats and guards.
Okay.
Even if the attackers breach one layer, you've got more to keep them out.
Okay, so for those of us who are maybe a little behind on our updates, what are some of the most important things we should be doing besides, panicking?
First off, don't panic.
Okay, good.
Awareness is the first step.
Right.
Check for updates on all your devices and your software.
Okay.
And then enable automatic updates whenever possible.
Got it.
So, set it and forget it for your digital security.
So it's like subscribing to a cybersecurity protection plan, but instead of paying with money, we're paying with the minor inconvenience of updating our devices.
Exactly.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good deal.
Okay, so we've talked about patching vulnerabilities.
Uh-huh.
We've talked about making sure our devices are updated.
Right.
What else can we do to fortify our digital castles?
Well, strong passwords.
Mhm.
I know it seems like a broken record, but it's shocking how many people still use really easy-to-guess passwords.
Yeah, it's true. Password 123 just isn't going to cut it anymore. So what are some tips for creating a password that's, strong but also humanly possible to remember?
Think beyond just letters and numbers.
Okay.
Use a mix of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters.
Right.
And instead of trying to remember some string of random gibberish, you could consider using a passphrase.
A passphrase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a longer phrase that's easier to remember,
Uh-huh.
but much harder to crack.
So something like, I love cybersecurity but hate weak passwords.
Exactly.
Okay.
Much longer,
Yeah.
more unique, and much more secure than just a simple word or a number combination.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, patching vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
using strong passwords. What else can we do to, protect ourselves?
Understanding the tactics that attackers use.
Okay.
So you can be prepared. We see a lot of phishing attempts where attackers try to trick you into giving them your personal information,
Okay.
like passwords or credit card details.
Right. Like those emails that are like, oh my gosh, you just won $1 million.
Exactly.
Or, your long lost Nigerian prince needs your bank account details.
Right.
Definitely not falling for that again.
Good.
So what if something seems a little suspicious?
Don't click on any links.
Okay.
Don't open any attachments. Always verify the sender's identity. And when in doubt, reach out to the organization directly through their official channels.
Okay. Good advice.
Yeah, remember, a healthy dose of skepticism is your best friend in the digital world.
So it's all about being cautious and staying informed.
Exactly.
Now, switching gears a little bit, let's talk about artificial intelligence, or AI.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere these days, from self-driving cars to those chatbots that can write you poems.
Right. AI is definitely having a moment.
Yeah.
And its role in cybersecurity is evolving really rapidly.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's being used to develop these incredibly sophisticated defenses. And AI systems can analyze huge amounts of data to detect and respond to threats in real time, much faster than humans ever could.
Wow. So it's like having a digital bodyguard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
But like any powerful tool,
Yeah.
it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
We have some articles here that talk about how uncensored AI chatbots, like this one called Ghost GPT, are being exploited by cybercriminals.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So what's concerning about these uncensored AI chatbots is that they can be manipulated to generate malicious code,
Oh, wow.
phishing emails, or even spread misinformation.
Oh, yikes.
It's like giving someone a really powerful weapon with no safety protocols.
Right. And it raises a lot of questions about the ethical implications of AI, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to things like governance. Who gets to control these powerful tools, and how do we ensure that they're being used responsibly?
These are really complex questions that we're just beginning to grapple with.
Yeah.
And it's not just a theoretical concern.
Right.
One article mentioned how the U.S. Office of Management and Budget accidentally sent an email to UN leaders that was titled, "Are you communist?"
Oh, no.
Yeah, it turns out that the email was generated by some kind of rogue AI.
Oh, my gosh. That's a pretty serious diplomatic faux pas.
It is.
It really highlights the potential for unintended consequences
Exactly.
when AI systems aren't properly controlled or understood.
Right, and it underscores the need for careful consideration and robust safeguards
Right.
as we integrate AI into more and more aspects of our lives.
So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
AI has the potential to really revolutionize cybersecurity for the better, but it also presents some new challenges and risks that we need to be prepared for.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is AI friend or foe in the cybersecurity landscape?
I think it's too early to say definitively.
Okay.
It's more like a powerful force
Right.
that needs to be harnessed and directed responsibly.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of both its potential and its limitations.
Yeah.
And we need to approach its development and deployment with careful consideration of its ethical implications.
So it's like we're entering this new era where we're sharing the digital world with these, incredibly powerful AI entities, and we're still kind of figuring out the rules of engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exciting and a little bit daunting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Yeah.
The decisions we make today about AI development and governance will have profound implications for the future of cybersecurity and really for society as a whole.
And that's a thought-provoking note to kind of end on this section. So we've covered a lot of ground already, from ransomware and unpatched vulnerabilities to the, evolving role of AI in cybersecurity.
Right.
But speaking of things that are evolving, let's move on to a device that's practically an extension of ourselves these days, our smartphones.
Yeah, mobile security is becoming increasingly important.
Yeah.
As we store more and more sensitive information on our phones,
Yeah.
our emails, our photos, our financial details.
Right.
It's like our entire digital lives.
And it seems like there's always a new vulnerability being discovered.
Yeah.
Like this one we have here about Safari on iPhones that allowed malicious code to escape the web content sandbox.
Right.
What is that, and how worried should we be?
Imagine the web content sandbox as a secure container within your phone
Okay.
where websites are allowed to run,
Uh-huh.
but they can't interact with the rest of your device.
Right.
So this helps prevent malicious code from spreading and doing any damage.
Okay.
But this vulnerability allowed code to break out of that sandbox
Oh.
and potentially give attackers access to sensitive information or even control over your phone.
So it's like escaping from digital jail.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty serious.
It is.
But luckily this has been patched in the latest iOS update, right?
That's right. Which brings us back to our favorite topic, keeping your software up to date.
Yeah.
One of the simplest yet most effective ways to protect yourself
Yeah.
from these kinds of vulnerabilities.
Right.
Think of it like getting your regular cybersecurity vaccinations
Okay.
to keep your digital immune system strong.
I like that analogy.
Good.
And while we're on the topic of mobile security, there's also been some interesting news about end-to-end encryption coming to messaging between Android and iOS devices.
Yeah.
What does that mean for, everyday users like us?
End-to-end encryption means that only the sender and the recipient can read the messages,
Okay.
making it much harder for anyone else to intercept them, even the messaging service provider itself.
Got it.
It's like sending a sealed letter
Okay.
that only the intended recipient can open.
So that's a big win for privacy.
Yeah, absolutely, but not without its critics.
Right.
We have some articles here that discuss how some governments are concerned that end-to-end encryption will make it more difficult to track criminal activity.
Right. It highlights that ongoing tension between privacy and security.
Exactly.
So on the one hand, people have a right to communicate privately without fear of surveillance. But on the other hand, law enforcement agencies argued that encryption could hinder their ability to investigate crimes and protect national security.
Exactly.
It's a tricky balance.
It is.
Finding that sweet spot between protecting individual privacy and ensuring public safety.
It's a really complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to societal values and priorities.
Right.
Do we prioritize individual privacy above all else?
Yeah.
Even if it means potentially hindering law enforcement efforts?
Right.
Or do we prioritize security
Yeah.
and allow for some level of surveillance in the name of public safety?
These are some tough questions
They are.
that we as a society need to grapple with.
Yeah, and it's a debate that will likely continue
Yeah.
as technology advances
Right.
and our lives become even more intertwined with the digital world.
Right. And it's not just about government surveillance either.
Right.
We also need to think about the role of tech companies
Uh,
in data collection and privacy. And speaking of data protection, one article caught my eye about the Aadhaar data vault in India.
yeah.
Can you explain what Aadhaar is and why this data vault is so important?
Aadhaar is India's biometric digital identity system.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a unique 12-digit identification number
Okay.
assigned to every resident of India,
Okay.
and it's linked to their biometric data, like their fingerprints and iris scans.
So it's like a digital fingerprint for every citizen.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is. It's actually the world's largest biometric ID system,
Wow.
covering over 1.3 billion people.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the Aadhaar Data Vault is designed to store and protect this incredibly sensitive biometric data,
Right.
ensuring compliance with data security regulations.
So it's a massive undertaking,
It is.
trying to safeguard the biometric data of over 1 billion people.
Right.
What kind of security measures are in place to protect this information from falling into the wrong hands?
The Aadhaar Data Vault uses a combination of physical and digital security measures. So physically, the data is stored in these secure data centers
Uh-huh.
with multiple layers of access control and surveillance.
Got it.
Digitally, the data is encrypted and fragmented, so it's broken up into smaller pieces and stored in different locations.
Oh, okay.
And this makes it much more difficult for attackers to steal or reconstruct the entire data set.
So it's like a digital jigsaw puzzle where the pieces are scattered all over the place,
Exactly.
and you need a very specific key to put it all back together?
Right, and access to the data is strictly controlled,
Okay.
with multiple layers of authentication required to access even a small portion of the information.
That's reassuring to hear, but even with all of these safeguards in place,
Yeah.
it still makes you wonder about the potential risks, right? Like what happens if this data is compromised?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
It's not like you can just issue everyone a new set of fingerprints.
Exactly.
Right.
The potential consequences of a breach of Aadhaar data are enormous.
Right.
It could lead to identity theft on a massive scale,
Yeah.
potentially affecting millions of people.
Wow.
It could also be used for surveillance and tracking,
Right.
raising serious privacy concerns.
It's a stark reminder of the importance of data protection in an increasingly digital world.
Yeah.
As we rely more and more on digital systems
Right.
and entrust them with our most sensitive information, we need to be extra vigilant about security.
Absolutely. Data protection is no longer just a technical issue.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental human right that needs to be protected.
Well said. It's a lot to think about.
It is.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about the rising threat of ransomware, the importance of patching vulnerabilities using strong passwords,
Right.
the double-edged sword of AI and cybersecurity, the evolving landscape of mobile security, and the challenges of protecting sensitive data like biometric information.
It's a lot to take in,
It is.
but it's essential information for anyone navigating the digital world today.
Absolutely. And we're not done yet. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve deeper into some of these topics and explore some emerging trends in cybersecurity. So stay tuned.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the importance of data protection in the digital age, and it's a theme that seems to be popping up everywhere in these articles.
It's true, yeah. And it really makes you realize that cybersecurity isn't just about protecting our devices. It's about protecting our lives, our identities, our finances, our health records, our personal conversations. Like, it's all out there.
Yeah, it's like our digital footprint is becoming almost as important as our physical one. And just like we take steps to protect our physical safety,
Yeah.
we need to be just as vigilant about our digital security.
So we've talked about some of the big threats out there, ransomware, phishing attacks, data breaches, but it can feel a little bit overwhelming. Like trying to fight a hydra, you cut off one head and two more grow back.
I understand that feeling. But the key takeaway here isn't to get paralyzed by fear. It's to be empowered by knowledge. The more you understand about the threats out there, the better equipped you'll be to make smart choices and protect yourself.
So instead of feeling like we're constantly playing defense, we can start to develop like a more proactive cybersecurity mindset. But where do we even begin?
Well, we've already discussed some fundamental steps like keeping your software updated, using strong passwords, being wary of phishing attempts. But it goes beyond that. It's about cultivating a sense of digital hygiene.
Digital hygiene. I like that. So it's like washing our hands for the digital world.
Exactly. Just like we have routines for physical hygiene.
Yeah.
Brushing our teeth, showering, washing our hands. We need to develop similar habits for maintaining our digital hygiene.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of these digital hygiene habits that we should be adopting?
One important habit is being mindful of what you share online. Think before you post. Ask yourself, do I really want this information out there for the world to see? Could it be used against me or someone else?
It's like that old saying, dance like nobody's watching, but post online like the whole world is watching, including your future employer and your grandma.
Exactly. And be cautious about clicking on links or downloading files from unknown sources. It's like picking up something off the street and bringing it into your home. You never know what you might be letting in.
So it's all about being more discerning about our digital interactions, being aware of the potential risks, and taking steps to minimize them.
Precisely. And it's not just about protecting yourself, it's also about protecting others.
What do you mean?
Well, think about how easily misinformation can spread online. One click, one share. And suddenly you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
So before you share something, do a quick fact check. Make sure it's from a reputable source and that it's not contributing to the spread of harmful or misleading information.
So it's like practicing good digital citizenship, being responsible members of the online community.
Absolutely. And it's something we all need to be mindful of.
Okay, so we've talked about individual responsibility, but what about the role of organizations and governments in this whole cybersecurity landscape?
Yeah, that's a crucial aspect. Organizations have a responsibility to protect the data they collect, not just from external threats, but also from internal misuse or negligence. They need to implement strong security measures, provide regular training to their employees, and have clear protocols for responding to incidents.
It's like building a fortress around your data, making sure it's well defended and that everyone inside knows how to handle sensitive information.
Exactly. And governments have a role to play in establishing regulations and frameworks that promote cybersecurity and protect individual rights. And they also need to invest in research and development to stay ahead of emerging threats and support the development of innovative security solutions.
So it's like a multi-layered approach with individuals, organizations, and governments all working together to create a more secure digital ecosystem.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play in creating a safer and more resilient digital world.
So we've talked about the threats, the defenses, and the shared responsibility, but what about the future? What are some of the emerging trends in cybersecurity that we should be aware of?
Well, one trend that we're seeing is the increasing sophistication of attacks. Attackers are using more advanced techniques like artificial intelligence and machine learning to bypass traditional security measures.
So it's like an AI arms race attackers are using AI to break in, and defenders are using AI to keep them out.
It's a bit like that we're also seeing an increase in attacks targeting the Internet of Things
Right.
or IoT. All those devices that are connected to the Internet, our smart homes, our wearables, even our cars.
Yeah, it's like the attack surface is expanding exponentially. Every new connected device is a potential entry point for attackers.
Exactly. And as these devices become more integrated into our lives, the potential consequences of an attack become even more significant.
So it's not just about stealing our data anymore. It's about potentially disrupting our lives, our homes, our infrastructure.
That's right. And another trend we're seeing is the rise of ransomware as a service, which we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
This is making it easier than ever for criminals to launch ransomware attacks, even if they don't have the technical skills.
So it's like the democratization of cybercrime. Anyone can be a hacker now.
In a sense, yes, and that's
Yeah.
a worrying trend, but it's not all doom and gloom. There are also some positive developments in cybersecurity.
Oh, good. I could use some good news right now. What are some of the things that are giving you hope?
Well, one positive development is the increasing awareness of cybersecurity issues.
Mm-hmm.
More and more people are recognizing the importance of protecting their data and taking steps to secure their devices.
It's like we're finally waking up to the fact that cybersecurity is everyone's business.
Exactly. And this increased awareness is leading to more investment in cybersecurity research and development.
Mm.
We're seeing new and innovative security solutions being developed all the time, like AI-powered threat detection systems and blockchain-based security platforms.
So it's like a constant evolution with attackers developing new techniques and defenders developing new ways to counter them.
That's a great way to put it. Cybersecurity is a dynamic and ever-changing field. It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of ransomware and phishing to the complexities of AI and the evolving threat landscape. It's clear that cybersecurity is a multifaceted and ever-evolving issue. But what does it all mean for our listener? What's the key takeaway here?
The key takeaway is that while the threats are real and constantly evolving, so are the solutions. Knowledge is power. The more we understand about the digital world and the risks involved, the better equipped we'll be to navigate it safely and confidently.
So it's not about living in fear or disconnecting from the digital world. It's about being informed, being vigilant, and being proactive about our digital security.
Exactly. Cybersecurity isn't a destination, it's a journey. And it's a journey we're all on together.
Well said. And as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive, we want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question to ponder.
With the rapid pace of technological advancement, how can we strike a balance between embracing the benefits of the digital world and mitigating the risks to our privacy and security?
That's a question that doesn't have an easy answer, but it's a question that we all need to be asking ourselves as we navigate this increasingly complex digital landscape. We'll be back after a short break to explore this question further and offer some insights from the articles we've been discussing. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we left you with a pretty big question. How can we balance all the amazing possibilities of the digital world with the very real threats to our privacy and security?
Right. It really gets to the heart of our relationship with technology. We rely on it for so much connection, information, entertainment.
Yeah.
But that reliance also makes us vulnerable.
It's like we've built this incredible digital city full of dazzling lights and endless possibilities, but we kind of forgot to put in any security cameras or alarm systems.
Yeah, and now we're starting to realize that there's some shady characters lurking in those digital shadows. But instead of retreating back into our analog caves,
Real.
The challenge is to figure out how to make this digital city safer for everyone.
So it's not about abandoning technology altogether. It's about using it more wisely and responsibly.
Exactly.
One of the articles we have here talks about this concept of digital literacy, which sounds like a pretty crucial part of this whole equation.
Absolutely. Digital literacy is more than just knowing how to use a smartphone or browse the internet.
Okay.
It's about understanding how technology works, how to evaluate information online, and how to protect yourself from digital threats.
So it's like having a digital survival guide, knowing how to navigate the online world safely and responsibly.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the key skills we need to develop to become more digitally literate?
Well, one important skill is critical thinking. The ability to question information, evaluate sources, and distinguish fact from fiction. We're bombarded with so much information online
Right.
that it's easy to get swept up in the hype or fall for scams.
So it's like being a digital detective, always looking for clues and evidence
Yeah,
to verify the information that we're consuming.
exactly.
What else should we be looking out for?
Another key skill is understanding privacy settings and how to control your digital footprint.
Right.
Social media platforms, apps, websites, they're constantly collecting data about us.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of what information we're sharing and how it's being used.
So it's like being the architect of your own digital privacy, choosing what to reveal and what to keep hidden.
Exactly.
What other essential skills do we need to master?
Knowing how to identify and avoid phishing scams is really crucial.
Okay.
These scams are becoming increasingly sophisticated, using social engineering techniques to trick people into revealing personal information or clicking on malicious links.
So it's like a digital game of deception
Yeah.
where attackers are constantly coming up with new ways to trick us. So how do we stay one step ahead?
One way is to be aware of the common tactics that they use.
Okay.
Phishing emails often create a sense of urgency or use emotional appeals to try to manipulate people.
Right.
They might impersonate trusted organizations or individuals, and they almost always have a sense of too good to be true.
So it's like spotting a fake designer handbag. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. What else can we do to protect ourselves?
Yeah.
Another important step is to enable multi-factor authentication whenever possible.
Okay.
This adds an extra layer of security, requiring you to provide 2 or more forms of identification to access your accounts.
Got it. So it's like having a double lock on your digital door, making it much harder for attackers to break in.
Exactly. But even with all these precautions, it's impossible to eliminate risk entirely.
That's true. Cybersecurity is a constantly evolving field, and it seems like there are always new threats emerging.
Yeah.
But by staying informed, being vigilant, and adopting good digital hygiene practices, we can at least significantly reduce our risk. It's like putting on a digital suit of armor. It may not make us invincible,
Right.
but it gives us a much better chance of fending off attacks. And if we do get hit, what are some things that we can do to mitigate the damage?
One crucial step is to change your passwords immediately.
Okay.
If you suspect that your account has been compromised, you should also report the incident to the relevant authorities,
Right.
like your bank or the police, and file a report with the Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3.
Okay, so it's like calling for backup after a digital break-in, getting help from the experts to contain the damage and prevent further attacks.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that we're not alone in this fight.
Right.
There are countless resources available to help us navigate the digital world safely, from informative websites and podcasts
Right.
to online communities and security experts.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by all the threats, let's empower ourselves with knowledge and support.
Yeah, I agree.
It's time to level up our digital literacy and build a more secure future for everyone.
Well said. Remember, cybersecurity isn't just about protecting data. It's about protecting our lives, our freedoms, and our future. Let's all do our part to create a digital world where we can thrive, innovate, and connect without sacrificing our security or our privacy.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cybersecurity. We hope you've learned some valuable insights and that you feel more equipped to navigate the digital landscape with confidence and awareness.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe out there in the digital wild.